Now, a tornado has torn through parts of northern KwaZulu-Natal. Structures in Inanda have been damaged. In fact, emergency services have treated 2 people for minor injuries before transporting them to hospital. They had been caught inside a container that overturned during the tornado. Damage to roofs and power cables, as you are seeing on your screen right now, is extensive. But there's no indication yet on the extent of the wreckage. In fact, we'll get the latest now with our senior reporter, Dasen Thathia. Dasen, what are you seeing where you are right now?
Well, we've been driving through the area, and I can tell you that just what we've been seeing so far is already the first signs of the destruction that that tornado has caused. Just here in Inanda, that's where we are. You can already see that some of the light poles have fallen over. You can see that the water is rising in certain places. Look at this vehicle that's now trying to cross this road just next to this police car. You can see how high the level of water is. And this has also been part of the problem for those that have been responding to the area, trying to access those that are in need. Right now, the eThekwini municipality says, fortunately, it has no reports of any fatalities, but it's like structural damage remains a problem. We're with Andreas Matthias from Marshall Security, and he's been kind enough to assist us to get around. That was one of the teams that was here earlier today when the first reports had come through. And I think before I continue and give you a sense of what we're seeing now, let me just take you back a little bit, and Andreas will tell us what they discovered when they first arrived here as we continue to drive through this area.
So we received a report just around 2:30 this afternoon that a tornado had ripped through the Inanda village here at a place called Dule Village. We responded together with our special operations team, our community support structures, and when we arrived on scene, we found utter devastation. The informal settlement, roofs had been blown off, doors were lying meters away from the properties that they were blown off. There were no reports of any casualties. That was our primary concern at that stage. But what made it even more daunting at the time was there was so much confusion that no or had a sense of what needed to be done to get assistance to the area as quickly as possible.
I think as much as we knew that there was bad weather, people, but it would get people caught unaware. Just here, as we see, returning home from work, trying to get back to their homes, and many of that being damaged. Did you see at the time that you were here enough of the assistance that is normally required during this time? I'm talking about disaster management and others that are coming forward, even community leaders, for example, that are helping others that are affected.
Well, the initial challenge is always trying to get the right type of assistance where it's needed. Assess that there was no injuries. We've got paramedics from various organizations in and around the area who immediately responded to that situation. Disaster management was contacted. They did send the eThekwini Fire Department. They were on scene. They made an assessment. And obviously that all gets fed back to the disaster management team. And then they have to put in place certain processes. I'll give an example. Gift of the Givers has been notified. They've also come to the party. So all those disaster management processes start coming into place. It's the people on the ground that are suffering the most. So they have the confusion of who do we call? Those that we have called haven't arrived, and obviously they don't realize that there's a much bigger picture in the background that is playing itself out as disaster management teams are putting things together.
I think what I'll also stress to our viewers, William, is that it is still very early. This happening only this afternoon. So disaster management teams the areas, and they do rely on that information from people on the ground. As we were driving through here a little while ago, I did see another ambulance that was patrolling as well. There have been reports coming through from medics that they have been trying to assist those that have been injured. Fortunately, even the injuries at this point are few, but again, I'll point out that those are the reported injuries. Sometimes this information does take some time to get to the authorities, but what's exacerbating the situation now is that the rain is persisting. You can see even as we're driving through here, the rain continues to pound down. It is causing the water levels in the rivers to rise, for example, and as a result of that, it's going to make really hard work for those that are going to be getting to these areas. One hopes that the number of injuries doesn't rise drastically. We're just next to a structure that also seems to have collapsed as a result of this tornado. We'll just try to show you what it looks like from here. This has now fallen off onto the roadside, and it really makes one wonder what people are going to do when they return home from work, and whether there are enough contingency plans in place to ensure that they have a warm and dry space to stay in tonight.
And Dasen, are we certain that it's only Inanda and surrounding areas that have been affected? Are we expecting it to be as severe elsewhere within the radius?
I can tell you from the reports that we've seen from the various agencies that the heavy rain and this bad weather has spread to other parts of the province. The reports of the tornado, though, seem to be specifically in the north. There have been sightings even outside of Inanda in this general area, but this seems to be where it has hit the worst. And it also seems to be where right now, authorities are focusing their attention, because they are trying to uncover that information that they need in relation to exactly what the extent of the damage is. We will be continuing to get reports from those agencies that are responding, talking to the paramedics, talking to the eThekwini municipality, for example, and disaster management agencies, and we will update you and our viewers as we continue to get that information.
That's our senior reporter, Dasen Thathia, live to us in Inanda, where a tornado has ripped through the community there at 2:30 this afternoon. Of course, the South African Weather Service has also issued a yellow level 2 warning of disruptive rains, which are now being experienced in KZN as you and I speak at the moment.